Welcome, everybody, to this edition here of On Deck with me, Charles Prodigy Richey, as I here every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. At On Deck CSR at Chicagoland Sportsradio.com CSR. Catch me every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. I'm sure a lot of people are noticing right now a little bit of different scenery for today. Got some little upgrades going on throughout the equipment right now in the Chicagoland studio, but nevertheless, I want to apologize to everybody for the late start, but ready to kick off a great show as usual today. Again, the number if you want to dial in for today's show is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richey, at OnDeckCSR, which is the Twitter page and Facebook page for the On Deck Show. As well, you can also catch me hosting throughout the week, covering the Steelers, the Meta Steel podcast, which airs every Monday and Wednesday at typically 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Give a breakdown, reaction to the Steelers throughout the week, some game preview. Remember, they got a game coming up tomorrow when they go in Cincinnati, trying to stay in the thick of things in the playoff race and win tomorrow. They'll be, I believe, in the number 6 seed, thanks to the Colts losing this past Thursday night. But anyway, like I said, thank you all those for joining us here today. And we got some stuff to get into, more particularly with the Chicago Bulls, as we get ready to kick things off in grand fashion. And it's been coming up about a year now since Jim Boylen, who's a former assistant of Craig Popovich, who came in last year, replaced Fred Hoiberg, who was going to be coaching in his fourth season. He got dismissed earlier, and I think it was like around beginning of December. Coming up around about this time, he brought that hard, gritty style attitude to the Bulls that he wanted their team to see. This is a team which, by the way, made the playoffs 6 times out of the last decade in the 2010 era. And the majority of it is just being cleanup and turnover from Tom Thibodeau's team, who used to have previously coached Chicago Bulls. And right now, there's a little bit of frustration, and we're kicking off here on the Bull Rush right now, as it seems like there's a little bit of trouble in paradise right now. And more in particular with Zach LaVine, getting a little bit of a complaint going on right now. He feels like he's being pulled a little bit earlier. There seems to be a trust issue as we get ready to dive into it a little bit further. And like I said, I really feel right now, with the current start they're at, right now they are 5-11 to start the season. You got Zach LaVine, who's one of your top scorers right now, but it just seems like right now the frustration is that Jim Boylen wants to see this guy become a two-way player. And like I said, I look at this team right now and what they've been doing when you position yourself for top picks in the draft. Obviously, they want to focus on their core future, which is Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen. But at the same time, too, I really believe they are in need of a spark. I think Zach LaVine, he's definitely nice and fresh. But at the same time, you cannot tell me right now, listen, I understand you want to keep a good, long, trusting relationship with this Bulls squad. What you need to keep in mind is that there does need to be a trust issue right here going forward. The problem is when you do go 1 for 4 in your last 4 home games, you're 1-3. And for the all-time season this year, for right now, the Bulls at home are 3-6. They are 3 games under 500. Obviously, there's got to be a lot more things that need to start clicking for this team to really be taken seriously. I feel with the Bulls at this point in time, they are a team right now who has somewhat of an identity crisis at this point, but only time will tell how much that will continue to last. I feel right now what they need to start doing, they need to definitely have a sit down I mean, here's Zach LaVine. He definitely wants to sit down and see where things are at with his head coach in Jim Boylen when we get ready to start this off. I'm sorry, though, but you got to look at it this way. I mean, what was one of the things that Jim Boylen was saying all year about this team? They need to start winning the tough rebounding battles. But one of the things I did mention last week about this Bulls squad, and you can even hear it too, as I am also part of the Crunch Time podcast, which will be part of Chicago Sports Zone. I've been saying that this is one of the teams who's taken a lot 3-point attempts throughout the year. And obviously, they have been missing badly at times. I mean, when you really start to dissect things, and the Chicago Bulls right now, they are 11th with the most 3-point attempts in the NBA, and they rank 25th in 3-point percentage. But then when you look at their field goal percentage throughout the year, they are towards the bottom. They are 29th. And when you look at the biggest difference, what they're trying to accomplish in this year, I mean, it's clearly obvious. I think right now they need to just tone it down some of the three-pointers, attack inside the paint, and we'll see what happens from there. This is a team who needs to be a little bit more physical. And Jim Boylen has made the message perfectly clear, I mean, this year, that he wants, I mean, one of the things he will not be hesitant to do is go some veteran players. And you gotta look at it this way. I mean, your job is pretty much on the line right now. I'm sorry, Zach, but at the same time, too, you gotta accept the fact that change may be coming if everyone else on the team doesn't figure out things soon. What do you guys feel about this? Do you feel like Zach LaVine's being singled out unfairly? Again, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number is 312-209-2232. Again, you can follow me on social media, beginning on Twitter at Prodigy Richey, as well as check out the On Deck Twitter and Facebook and Instagram pages. That's at On Deck CSR. As we continue to move a little bit further. The last few games throughout the week, I mean, the Bulls, the recent game that they won in their homestand was back on November 20th when they defeated Derrick Rose and the Detroit Pistons for the second time. I mean, their two other previous wins at home were against the New York Knicks, which I just mentioned, and the New York Knicks. Other than that, I think the only thing that's a little bit murky to say about this, they have been facing the top talent at home. And that's where I feel like maybe we need to pause a little bit on this and see where it comes from, where the unity starts to gather. But I really do believe right now, I mean, their schedule just starting off, I mean, trying to be a playoff team. Obviously, these are big tests coming up to start off the year. But I think the competition for what they need to face, it definitely puts them a little bit of a bind. But I think this harsh discipline right now, the pulling out, I think it's going to help them grow further. I mean, in the road, down the road, I should say. Chicago Bulls, this is a team right now who is trying to restore that gritty style of basketball. And you got coming up right now shortly after this home game. So now you're going to be having your next 5 games, which 4 of which will be on the road against the Hornets, Golden State Warriors, Portland Trailblazers, and Sacramento Kings. You're going to have one home game between that, and that'll be on Monday, November 25th. That's what you got to look at right now. I just feel with the Bulls, I mean, is there some lack of trust going on? Arguably. But at the same time, they need to be taken to that next level, and I think that's what right now Jim Boylen's job is to do. I think Bulls management, they don't want to see like this group being split apart, but at the same time, if you got to do what's necessary, I'm all for it. I just don't want to be making excuses for a team like this right now and where you can't be so sensitive to the fact that you're going to be like, why do we have to get like the heat? Well, I'm sorry. You play mediocre, you're going to get treated mediocre. Bottom line. I mean, obviously, the Foles front office rash. They took a lot of criticism throughout the offseason. How they're like constantly rebuilding or reshuffling the deck. Apparently, they got the message loud and clear to Jim Boylen that they want to return back to a playoff team, and they want to send the message that they are growing in the right direction. Only time will tell on that as we take a look at that going forward here. And we'll only find out. But for right now, if you guys want, feel free to get in on the show. Again, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232. You can also follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richey, as well as check me out on Twitter and Instagram at OnDeckCSR. And I'm also streaming live from my YouTube channel, Charles J. Richey. Just going to be a little bit short of some music for today, so just please bear with me. There's going to be no commercial breaks for today's show, but still the man on the job for right now, covering this bowl season as we try and get some things a little bit cleared up for the time being. All right, now let's get ready to transition to some NFL football right now as we take a look at it for the time being. Well, when we look at it, let's go with some NFL extra points here on deck on CSR. And welcome back here to On Deck CSR. Right now, you hear that music, you know what time that means. It is time for some NFL extra points, as I just alluded to right now, real quickly here. And I got coming here from our last topic of the Bull Rush, coming here from Robert Jarvis. Until the Bulls get a real head coach and management, allow him to coach, it will never change. Well, I'll have to disagree with you on that, Jarvis, for the time being. I like the gritty attitude, the toughness he's trying to bring. You still got to give this guy a chance in Jim Boylen. Granted, he's definitely causing frustration with the players at this point in time. But again, I think you need to see him try and clear up some traffic right here. He's got to be the voice and the only voice in that locker room with that coach. You don't want to lose the trust of that players. And I get it. You have John Paxson, Gar Foreman still pulling strings along with their boss, the chairman of the Chicago Bulls, Jerry Reinsdorf. But at the same time, too, you look at it. This guy right now, despite being 30 games under 500, this is still a growing process at this point in time until they decide how they're going to move forward and what they try and figure out going down in the future. But right now, let's get back here to the NFL extra points on Deck CSR, on CSR, as we take a look at things right now. NFL 100 was on last night on the NFL Network. They were just announcing their top 100 team yesterday, and which I really felt like was an interesting topic here at this point yesterday. And here's how it went last night. So it was hosted by the panel of Rich Eisen of NFL Network, along with NBC Sports, Chris Collinsworth, who is also the co-host and analyst to Al Michaels on Sunday Night Football on Sundays, along with head coach of the Patriots, six-time Super Bowl champion, as well as 2 additional rings, making a total of 8 with the Giants with Bill Parcells. I'm talking about none other than Bill Belichick. And yesterday, because they're going to be doing a 6-week panel throughout the week, and it kicked off yesterday, as a matter of fact. And they're revealing the 100 greatest players and 10 greatest coaches in NFL history every Friday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time through December 27th. So basically, which will be around after Christmas time. That will be a Friday. And I think, no doubt about it, I mean, the very first back that they chose on this, I mean, to kick off the 100 team, none other than Cleveland Browns Hall of Famer and NFL champion, and the first two-time MVP, Jim Brown, who made a difference. He only played, I mean, at this point in time, I think it was 9 NFL seasons, or 8. And he had a whale of a career. Excuse me, he did play 9 seasons, so excuse me. So, one-time NFL champ, 3-time MVP. He won the very first 2, by the way, to kick it off when the award was first given in 1957. And I couldn't disagree anymore with that honor right there. Jim Brown right there, who Chris Collinsworth was suggesting, it was like watching a father play with kids in a regular backyard game where he was like mauling people. And I have no question about that. I mean, Jim Brown right there, he's definitely arguably not only the greatest Cleveland Brown in NFL history, but probably arguably one of the top players in NFL history of all time. I think if you look at, I mean, another guy who could probably get in that argument with him and probably challenge for that spot would be Jerry Rice, who was the all-time leader and was the all-time leader in touchdowns at that point in time. I think he still is, if I'm not mistaken. But you look at that, and you look at some of the rankings they started off with. They started off with Jim Brown, who was the very first selection, followed by Emmitt Smith, who was also a 3-time Super Bowl champion, MVP and Super Bowl MVP. And Emmitt Smith, who did a lot in his career with a solid offensive line, a lot of people would argue, he was the second choice for that. I'm not sure if I will put him at number 2, even though he is the all-time leading rusher on the rushing list for the NFL. I do feel like right now with that, I mean, Emmitt Smith, who's definitely one of the other revolutionaries who I enjoyed watching growing up, where it's watching this game or what he's been able to contribute throughout. Emmitt Smith was a guy who definitely gave his all, as he leads the all-time rushing list with 18,355 yards. And I'm not so sure if Frank Gore is going to probably catch up with that, but Emmitt Smith, I mean, one of the games people always remember him by was with that final game of the season, the 1993 season against the New York Giants. Home field advantage was on the line at the end of that season. They were both going to that final game with a tie. The winner of that game was going to get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And sure enough, it did happen in favor of the Dallas Cowboys right there. And I just feel right now, when you look at it, I mean, he was definitely a deserving honor. But then you also had number 3 for your running back. I'm just surprised Walter Payton did not get in there at the second one, since he was the second leading rusher of all time. I mean, sweetness for a guy who's been passed away for about 20 years, who left this world awfully young. And I thought he had definitely embodied everything, the heart of an athlete, as well as a standard as to how all athletes should be conducting themselves. So who do you have at number 3, the NFL 100? I mean, selected by Rich Eisen, Chris Collinsworth, Bill Belichick. You have Eric Dickerson of the LA Rams. I have a big-time problem with that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he still holds record, I think, for 2,000 yards rushing in a season. What he was able to do, I mean, throughout his career. I mean, this is a guy who played 12 NFL seasons. And that year, it was 1984, where he had 2,105 rushing yards. I mean, for that point. I mean, still has been broken. The only guy who really came close was AD, Adrian Pearson, who actually missed that record by 9 yards. He needed 8 yards to tie Eric Dickerson and 9 to pass him. He finished the 2012 season with 2,097 yards. In my opinion, if you're going to be looking at this all around, I mean, one guy you did not notice on that list was anyone from the 2000s, like an Adrian Pearson or LT LaDainian Tomlinson. I think for like to the NFL's credit, what they definitely have a way of doing is that they'll find a way to like absorb, I mean, athletes from top to bottom. They look at it as pure football. And what these guys meant only to the game. I mean, of course, you don't want to just feel like say like, well, how many rings has this guy's got or MVPs? I mean, you look at the pure playing of this selection right here. I mean, the overall athletes, I mean, they have contributed their blood, sweat, heart, and tears. And I really do believe, like I said, I think Walter Payton should be a little bit higher, but they also missed the boat on a couple of big guys. I mean, they contributed mightily, I mean, in this millennium. I mean, obviously, running backs is becoming more of a dying breed. But shoot, I mean, what about other guys that were on this list? I mean, for right now, I mean, we can also look at who I did not see on here. I mean, for this thing to get started, I mean, there's definitely, I mean, it's a tough list. They got so little choices they had to make. But, I mean, where are some other guys that are missing on here? I think you also have to look at, too, how about a guy like Marshall Faulk? Marshall Faulk, I mean, was also a good guy right there, too. Former NFL MVP. I mean, he did not win the Super Bowl MVP, but he did a lot in his career, rushing for 12,279 yards, even though he's 12th in the all-time list. Or you can even make the argument for a guy like Curtis Martin, who's 5th in the all-time list, 14,101 yards, did not win a championship. But yet, I mean, he was an AFC champion with the New England Patriots, where they lost to Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers in Super Bowl 31. I really believe this list was kind of like a little bit rigged in some ways. But at the same time, too, they're looking at it from top to bottom because guess who he also had coming in at number 3 after Eric Dickerson? You had Barry Sanders in there. I mean, Barry Sanders, a guy who definitely retired way too soon. He finished his career in 10 seasons with 15,269 rushing yards. Obviously, he was definitely looking at like the pain or how much longer he will last. But I really feel like right now, a guy like Barry Sanders, he was definitely one of the phenomenal guys who put that Lions team on the map, I mean, during his career. He was also co-MVP, too, in 1997 with Brett Favre. This is a guy who definitely did a lot in his career, I mean, with that. But like I said, I really do feel right now it's going to be an exciting list. I mean, with it being the 100th season, not just the NFL, but the Chicago Bears. But like I said, I really do feel like Walter Payton should a little bit higher. Because I'm taking this list as like if you're going from like your top to bottom guys. And that's how I feel. I just feel like right now what they need to do was put a little bit more emphasis on a team right now who needs a little bit more structure in their selection. Because also another guy, too, let's not forget, O.J. Simpson's controversial what happened following his post-NFL career. They were still wise enough to recognize his NFL career as a running back and what he did. O.J. Simpson, who, by the way, I mean, remember, Juice, by the way, who obviously get a lot of controversy over, like, the murder and stuff, 21st on the all-time rushing yard list. But O.J. Simpson, right there, I mean, he set the original record, I think, in his career where he had 2,003 rushing yards back in 1973. And I want to say that year, he was also league MVP and did not win a Super Bowl. That was another guy who right there was the original standard, I mean, for running backs. But you also look at him, too. He's also a guy who kept his head on straight in the game and knew how to keep consistency going. He set the standard for longevity, if you ask me. And then the other guys on this list, let's keep it going here, who we had on here. Here's your main list who we got. We also got, after O.J. Simpson, we had Gale Sayers of the Chicago Bears, Dutch Clark of the Lions. Then comes Walter Payton. At number 8, accordingly. Like I said, I just feel like he definitely got a little bit slighted, to be honest with you, in my view. I feel like this is a guy right here who should have been a little bit higher, if not the number 1 guy, probably like the number 2 guy as far as we're talking about all-time NFL team. I feel like they put him severely low. Walter Payton played on a losing team for so long. I mean, arguably almost longer than anyone. I mean, with the Chicago Bears more in particular. Remember, they didn't start turning things around until around 1984 when they finally made the playoffs at that point in time. I mean, they went on a big drought where they became like kind of like a little bit of a laughingstock ever since George Papa Bear Halas stepped down. At the end, I think it was the 1967 season, I want to say. But anyway, you look at that club right there. I mean, they had a 10-6 record. They only went to like 1 playoff appearance. I mean, since his stepping down, that was in 1979, where they lost in the wild card round. But then were able to return back to the playoffs in 1984. So they went on a near 17-year playoff drought, basically. And the Bears right now, I mean, for what Walter Payton, I mean, meant to that team as far as overall what you look at, too. And what we take a look at it, and as far as like approximate value goes, Walter Payton is number 1 with 168, followed behind Mike Singletary, Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, and Dan Hampton. So just go to show you right there, like what he was able to do. Sweetness. I definitely play a big-time salute. Definitely miss you here today. But I want to hear your opinion right now. If there's one guy off this list that was mentioned, again, if you guys missed out, it was Jim Brown of the Cleveland Browns, Emmitt Smith of the Cowboys, Eric Dickerson of the Rams, Barry Sanders of the Lions, O.J. Simpson of the Bills, Gale Sayers of the Bears, Dutch Clark of the Lions, Walter Payton of the Bears, Lenny Moore of the Baltimore Colts, Marion Motley of the Browns and Steelers, and last but not least, 2 guys, Steve Van Buren of the Eagles and Earl Campbell of the Oilers, which Earl Campbell was another good one too. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, Earl Campbell, by the way, who did a lot in his career, which, by the way, was drafted by Bum Phillips, who's I want to say he was the head coach GM at the time when he was running that ship. But, I mean, he was the head coach overall. That was one of his picks. And Bum Phillips definitely right there helped, I mean, put a lot of things on the map. I mean, he was head coach and GM throughout his whole coaching career. And when you look at a guy like Earl Campbell, who did a lot, came up a little short with those Orioles teams. I mean, he was drafted in 1978, had good years against the Steelers, but obviously he got slowed down a little bit throughout his career. He was able to reunite with him with the Saints. Didn't really have much flashes where he was before. So now let's get ready to go on right now. Let's go wrap up here with the Bears Zone. Again, I want to hear your thoughts. Who do you feel got left off the list? Who would you swap out? Again, the number to be reached is 312-209-2232. Again, that number to be reached is 312-209-2232 as we get ready to move a little bit further here right now, on deck right now on CSR. And let's get into the Bears Zone right now. Chicago Bears, by the way, it's been a lot of up and down season right now. A lot has been made of Matt Nagy, who's been doing a lot of the play calling on offense. A lot of people really believe that he's been steering this club in the wrong direction as far as with the offense. And I just don't understand right now what the mentality to think right now at this point, and we'll see what happens. But right now, for a team who had not only playoff aspirations return once again after experiencing a 8-year drought, I should say, and then to have a Super Bowl contending year. It's been definitely disappointing to say the least. But I really do believe right now it's been a season to put in the rearview mirror. Now people are willing to bail on Matt Nagy for this time. With the Bears being at 4-6, like I said, they've definitely had a crucial must-win against the Rams, really keep their playoff hopes in decent standing. They did not do that. And what happens? You find yourself at 4-6 right now, going into this thing. And the Chicago Bears, right now, if we take a look at the NFL standings, I want to say they are 10th in the NFC wild card as we look at it. Yeah, so they're 10th right now, trailing the Carolina Panthers. Well, no, actually, excuse me. They're trailing the Minnesota Vikings, who hold the final wild card spot. And the Bears right now, they are at that point in time 3.5 games behind, which has been completely pathetic to say the least. I don't mean all boats we've ripped on them, but here's what stands right now for the Chicago Bears if they are to have any hope of making the wild card. Let's recap. So when you take a look at the standings at this point in time, behind the Minnesota Vikings, the good thing for the Bears is that they got the first half of the head-to-head victory over them. So if they are able to sweep the series against the Vikings, which pretty much you need to hope for right now, if you finish in a tie with them, you will get that final wild card spot. It looks like it's going to probably go out the window at this point in time. But then you also got the LA Rams, not going to really do any favors, or the Eagles, where you lost head-to-head matchups, big daggers in my opinion. And then last but not least, against the Carolina Panthers right now, if you look at like their FC common games, the Bears are 1-3 while the Panthers are winless. So right now, your logistical hopes is between the Vikings and the Panthers. The Vikings could trip up along the way. Steve Smith was able to mention, too, when you look at a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's a $1 million man as far as quarterbacks with a fully guaranteed contract, when pressure comes, that tends to break pipes, for him and the Vikings. You look at the Minnesota Vikings remaining schedule, and here's how it looks for them. And this is what they got to look out for right now. So right now they are on their bye week, but they'll be coming back to visit the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle for the second straight year. Then they host the Lions. Then they go at LA against the Chargers, face the Packers in Minnesota, and then the Bears at home. So they end the season with 2 home games where you need to start thinking about. But right now, I'm looking at this. I mean, that's going to be a little bit of a tough stretch, in my opinion. I think 2 teams that can really trip them up along the way. I can definitely see the Lions, Chargers, Packers, pretty much their remaining schedule. I mean, you got only 2 teams right now with winning records in the Seahawks and the Packers, by the way. I mean, Vikings could still find themselves in a position where they could get a shot at the division. They've only lost 1 head-to-head game against Green Bay Packers so far this season. If they were able to beat the Packers, they would be tied. No, the Packers would still have the edge due to divisional play. So they would have to go a full game up on them. But the Packers, who, by the way, right now, they got a matchup going against the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara. That'll be tomorrow evening, Sunday Night Football matchup on NBC. So right now, they're kind of like asking right now if they're able to lose to the Bears, Vikings, and Lions. I mean, if they're able to like probably go 1-2 in those areas, we'll see what happens. But the Bears, I think for right now, they definitely got an embarrassment of riches, to say the least. And it's just been disappointing. I mean, to watch all the hype, the buildup. I mean, not just for the 100 season of the NFL, but the 100 season of the Bears as a whole. And that's where I really feel bad at, because I really do believe, I mean, they could choose not to let it slip away. But right now, you got a team to host the Giants tomorrow in Soldier Field. And that game, get to you here in just a second. Trying to find out what channel that's going to be on. That game will be on Fox, and we'll see. I mean, the Giants right now, who are 2-8, they thought they had a little bit of a season right now with the quarterback and Daniel Jones. They have definitely been tripped up so far for right now. But, yeah, I mean, this is right now could possibly be a trap game, in my opinion, where I could definitely see them, I mean, tripping up over their own foot right now, and we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, I definitely feel like where we will find out here and see how it pales, because they definitely a team right now who's trying to find their identity throughout this funky season they had. So here's like the injury report coming up for the Chicago Bears tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And right now, they got 1 starter who's going to be out. That's going to be Danny Trevathan, who has battling all week in practice. Danny Trevathan, he's been dealing with an elbow injury. He did not practice all week. And don't forget, Danny Trevathan, I believe he was ruled out last week. He was against the LA Rams. So this will be 2 straight games he'll be without. That's a huge blow, in my opinion. When you got your inside linebacker who's on the shelf for right now. But, I mean, other than that, right now, you had Mitch Trubisky, who was full participant in practice all week, despite having that hip injury. It was interesting to see Matt Nagy pull him out and how they felt like he was healthy and still decent, good enough to go for that game against the Rams, which, by the way, he did lead them to an opening half touchdown drive. The only problem is, like I said, you had your defense, which has been the story all year, where they've been going to bat for them. They've been keeping them in games. Just the offense has not been doing its part firmly. And that's the sickening thing about this. It's just, I can't like begin to fathom it, how you let this get out of control the way they did. But they're 4-6 right now. You got to figure right now it's a 6-game season. You can't afford to lose no more than 1 game. Lose 2 games, you're definitely toast, in my opinion, throughout the season. And we'll see how it continues to wrap up for this Bears squad as we get ready to move along here. And let's find out. Let's find out what this team is really made of. Personally, I feel it's almost kind of like a similar situation with the Chicago Bulls, where there's kind of like a little bit of communication and leadership right now. I really like to start to ponder right now, how much is it like guys are getting frustrated in the locker room? Did they make a mistake by not attending Colin Kaepernick's workout? I mean, that's a story for another day, but I mean, a guy right here, a guy who's supposed to be accompanied by the NFL, supposed to be having given a fair shake. And let's go ahead and wrap up. I want to speak in that real quick. And I look at a guy like Colin Kaepernick right now, who's definitely we haven't seen in 3 years. He asked out of his contract in the 2017 offseason when you had head coach Kyle Shanahan, who didn't think he was going to fit the scheme. But remember, this is a guy who was kneeling. He was fighting for racial injustice. And I applaud him for that. The only thing is, a guy like Colin Kaepernick, I think where he put his foot in his mouth is that, listen, I'm not questioning for what he stood up for. He's a great hero, all his causes, with police brutality, the racial injustice, social justice, and I think he's still a whale of a job. That was unquestioned. The only problem is when you're trying to still get back in the NFL, after winning a lawsuit against them, an undisclosed settlement where you got played richly, you still have a passion for this game, 32 years old, and granted, there's things that were murky leading into that. As far as like the waiver clause, which his crew advised him not to sign off on. But at the same time, too, you had time throughout the week. I mean, there was unclarity about how many teams were supposed to be attending until like about Thursday or Friday. It was to be up to 25 teams, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. And you decide to pull out. I mean, who does that? Listen, I think Colin Kaepernick right now, I think he is definitely a great role model for people in today's society. The only problem is on a professional level, trying to get back to the league, you should have attended that workout. And I'm sorry, anytime when people are looking for jobs, obviously you don't want to get pushed around, but at the same time, too, you got to like understand these are stipulations that you have to go through. You even had a former head coach of the Cleveland Browns and Raiders, Oakland Raiders, Hugh Jackson, who's going to be orchestrating the workout. I mean, this is a guy who's in fully support of him. He was truly disappointed. He was the guy who decided, you know what, I'm not going to attend this workout. When you decided to like find out 10 minutes before the actual workout that was scheduled last week outside of Falcons facility, you decided to move it about approximately 60 miles to a high school. Listen to me. I understand his message, what he said to the people. I mean, following his workout, he said for the NFL to stop running from the truth and that they're coming for them. But it still sounds like a guy who right now at the end of the day sounds like a little bit more trouble than he was worth. Listen, I'm more happy with the fact right now, and I feel like the NFL is in a better place at the end of the day when you got guys like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you got Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. The future of black quarterbacks is wonderful right now. It is a great transition. I mean, right now, a lot of people are arguing, I mean, how much long is this going to last where that's the level 2 style of play, we're going to run a lot more and then pass, trust on the running game. But it's almost something I would go back and argue that Michael Vick started. So my question to you guys before we end the show, do you believe that Colin Kaepernick will get one more chance at a workout, try to get an NFL team, and he'll get back in there? Be personally honest right now, I give his chances maybe like a 40% chance. I mean, he definitely ticked off a lot of owners and people who were there waiting. You decide to bail and move further as advised by your team, which you're in your right. But the timing of it, I think, looks bad. And we'll see where it goes from here. And that's going to do it for this edition of On Deck here on CSR with me, Charles Prodigy Richey. I want to say thank you for those of you tuning in on this Saturday. I just want to apologize for the circumstances. We've been going through some upgrades throughout the studio, so I apologize if you didn't hear any promos or commercials or anything. I had to call like an audible today and do a little bit something with the show. But anyway, if you guys want to tune in, make sure it's every Saturday from 1 to 2 p.m. on CSR. Next week, I will not be here. I'll be taking a time out due to the Thanksgiving holiday, and which, by the way, I want to wish every one of you a happy and a blessed Thanksgiving. Be safe in the holiday. Enjoy the Black Friday, Christmas holiday shopping, and be safe. As I always leave you, and remember, the number to be reached going forward, it is 312-209-2232. Again, that's 312-209-2232. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Prodigy Richey, at OnDeckCSR, at Meta Steel CJR, which I'm also host of the Meta Steel podcast. Instagram, that can be followed, Meta Steel Nation. And, of course, my On Deck Twitter and Instagram, at OnDeckCSR. And, of course, my YouTube channels, Meta Steel Podcast, and Charles Richey. As I always leave you, don't be trolling, be rolling. I gone.